Chapter 2: The Root Causes of Emotional Suppression. Understanding the dangers of emotional suppression in men requires delving into the underlying reasons why men are often compelled to bottle up their emotions in the first place. Emotional suppression doesn't simply happen by accident. It is shaped by a combination of societal expectations, family dynamics, and cultural conditioning that have been ingrained over generations. This chapter takes a closer look at the factors that contribute to emotional suppression, specifically focusing on the impact of upbringing, traditional gender roles, and the cultural pressures that perpetuate toxic masculinity. 1. Upbringing, the early lessons. From a young age, children learn behaviors that are deeply influenced by the adults and environment around them. For boys, emotional suppression often begins in childhood, where they are taught, whether overtly or subtly, that certain emotions are inappropriate for their gender. Phrases like "boys don't cry," "stop being so sensitive," or "be a man" are common refrains that boys hear growing up. These messages are designed to encourage boys to suppress emotions like sadness, fear, or vulnerability while promoting emotions like strength, independence, and assertiveness. The early reinforcement of these ideas can have lasting effects. For example, a boy who cries or expresses sadness may be told to man up, signaling that such emotions are not acceptable or valued. Over time, these repeated messages create a deep-seated belief that showing emotion is somehow a betrayal of masculinity. As these boys grow into men, they often find it difficult to express or even recognize their emotions, seeing vulnerability as a failure. 2. Traditional gender roles, the tough guy ideal. As boys transition into adolescence and adulthood, societal expectations around gender roles become even more pronounced. Men are often expected to embody characteristics such as strength, stoicism, and emotional control. These expectations are reinforced through various channels, from media and pop culture to family structures and social circles. Traditional gender roles place significant pressure on men to be tough and to avoid showing vulnerability. In these roles, men are frequently taught that their value is tied to their ability to be successful, self-sufficient, and in control of their emotions. Expressions of fear, sadness, or emotional pain are seen as signs of weakness, and vulnerability is often considered unmanly. As a result, men may suppress their emotions not just for personal comfort but also to conform to the roles society expects them to play. This pressure is particularly acute for men aged 35 to 55, who are often at the peak of their careers, raising families and navigating other significant life transitions. At this stage, the expectation to have it all together is high, and emotional expression might be perceived as a threat to one's authority or credibility. This creates a profound disconnect between a man's internal emotional world and the outward appearance he feels compelled to maintain. 3. Toxic masculinity, the harmful ideal of the perfect man. Toxic masculinity refers to a narrow and harmful definition of manhood that is based on rigid stereotypes of strength, dominance, and emotional suppression. It is the idea that men must be aggressive, emotionally stoic, and avoid showing vulnerability at all costs. While not all men who adhere to traditional gender roles fall into the trap of toxic masculinity, this extreme version of masculinity can be deeply damaging. Toxic masculinity not only discourages emotional expression but also fosters a culture of silence around mental health issues. Men who subscribe to this version of masculinity may view asking for help as an admission of weakness, leading to further emotional isolation. Toxic masculinity can also perpetuate unhealthy behaviors such as aggression, substance abuse, and emotional outbursts as men struggle to cope with their suppressed feelings. Additionally, toxic masculinity often discourages men from forming deep emotional connections with others. The pressure to maintain a tough guy persona can create emotional distance in relationships, leaving men feeling isolated, misunderstood, or disconnected. This isolation can worsen feelings of depression, anxiety, and loneliness. 4. Cultural expectations, the burden of being strong. Beyond family dynamics and social circles, cultural norms also play a significant role in emotional suppression. In many societies, men are expected to be the providers, protectors, and leaders of their families and communities. These expectations can be empowering in some respects, but they can also be incredibly burdensome. The idea that men must always be strong and in control leads many to view emotional vulnerability as a threat to their sense of self-worth. In cultures where success is often defined by professional achievement, financial stability, and social status, emotions are seen as distractions or inconveniences that detract from the pursuit of these goals. As a result, men learn to internalize their emotions and deal with them in isolation rather than expressing their feelings or seeking support. Furthermore, the modern world's fast-paced, performance-driven culture reinforces this idea of emotional suppression. Men are expected to manage multiple roles: partner, parent, employee, community member, without showing signs of strain. Emotional expression becomes a luxury that few can afford, and as such, it is routinely pushed aside in favor of getting the job done. 5. The role of media and pop culture. Media and pop culture further entrench these societal expectations. The portrayal of men as stoic heroes who overcome adversity without breaking a sweat is pervasive across television, movies, and advertising. Men in these media depictions rarely show emotion, instead embodying an ideal of strength, dominance, and self-sufficiency. While these portrayals may be entertaining or aspirational for some, they set unrealistic standards that men often feel pressure to live up to. Men who do not fit into this mold of emotional restraint may feel inadequate or less than others. The result is a constant cycle of trying to live up to an ideal that, in reality, is unsustainable and harmful to their mental health. 6. The long-term impact of suppression. As men internalize these societal and cultural expectations, the habit of emotional suppression becomes ingrained in their everyday lives. Over time, these suppressed emotions become more difficult to manage, often leading to a variety of mental health challenges, including depression, anxiety, and anger. The longer a man suppresses his feelings, the harder it becomes to break free from this cycle. Understanding these root causes is essential for breaking the pattern of emotional suppression. By recognizing the ways in which societal, familial, and cultural forces have shaped their behavior, men can begin to challenge these norms and learn healthier ways to express and process their emotions. Conclusion: the first step toward healing. Emotional suppression in men is not a natural trait, it is a learned behavior that is shaped by cultural and societal factors. As men navigate the challenges of their 35 to 55 years, it's important to recognize these root causes in order to dismantle the barriers that prevent emotional expression. By doing so, men can begin to embrace vulnerability, shed the burden of toxic masculinity, and move toward emotional well-being and healthier relationships. In the next chapter, we will explore the physical and mental toll of emotional suppression and how it manifests in the daily lives of men.